Okay, so in a continuation of demonstrations from yesterday we went over C Sharp classes and objects for the first time. Um, we're moving ahead and we're going to do what are called CRUD operations on on a class or on a thing. Okay, now what are CRUD operations? Well, it's something you're going to do a lot of, at least in school, and it's because it's a really good uh, exercise. Create a new object, read from a list of objects, or basically create or read and reading an object, update and delete. So when you see the acronym CRUD, CRUD, create, read, update, delete. I mean, at the basic level, when you have a thing, these are the operations that you can do with the things. You can create a new thing, you can update the thing, you can, like if there's a bunch of things, you can read from those things and select them, and you can delete the thing. And so in your labs, I know, we do different kind of subsets of these operations. And so we'll create a class like we did yesterday. Then we'll make a list of those things, and then we'll update the list, right? We'll read from the list, we'll update an entity in the list, we'll delete an item from the list, etc. So we're going to do these CRUD operations on a thing. Now, one lab that we've done at least once, maybe more than once, was movies, right? We kind of have been working with movies that have directors and titles and all of this kind of jazz. So I figure, why don't we make this item, this individual item, a movie? And then instead of storing all of our data in parallel arrays, which is what we've been doing up until now, we no longer store our data in parallel arrays. We can store all of our movies in a list of movies, and then each movie has its own title and duration and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, Jack? Yeah, I can appreciate it. So let me get the screen share going, and this is recording, so you can always go back and watch it. Okay, so the first order of business is to create a class called movie. Again, it's a singular class. Now, I named my project movies. Maybe I'll rename this to movies demo, right? Just to avoid any sort of naming conflicts. I should have just called it movies demo to start with. And to add a class, you right click the project, add a class. And so we did that at least 4 times yesterday. And my class in C# is going to be movie.cs. Capital M. Okay, so the convention is that our classes are Pascal casing, and we're going to mark our classes public. Now, yesterday we learned about instance fields. We learned about properties to work with those instance fields. And so let's go ahead and make a private string underscore name for the movie name. And you can, you could do something like movie name, or just call it underscore name. And sure, let's go with the movie description. And sure, let's go with the year. It's really impressive. And so let's just go with those three. Let's just go with those 3 attributes for now, or what you would call instance fields. Remember yesterday I repeated myself 100 times. It's all about the instance fields, working with putting data into those instance fields and pulling data out. We also learned yesterday this kind of idea of a constructor. Someone remind me what a constructor was? We covered a lot of information yesterday. So what was this thing called a constructor? Someone said something. What was a constructor?
Method with some the same name as the class.
Boom. Correct. A constructor is a method with the same name as a class. So we're going to build a method. It has no return data type. Remember this little chunk of code right here? It is a constructor, but it has a more specific name called the default constructor. Remember that? Why is it the default constructor? Because you get it by default. You actually don't have to code this. Okay, but we also overloaded the constructor, right? We overloaded the constructor to accept inputs so that when you construct an object, you can set the instance fields in the constructor. Right? You can give the instance fields values in the constructor. So this is the default constructor. And then we made another constructor called movie where we set underscore name. You have to have parameters here. String name, string description, string year.
You need an O in description.
I do need an O in description. T-I-O-N, thank you. Let's set the underscore description equal to description, and let's set the underscore year equal to year. Okay? It's all about the instance fields. Notice what this constructor is doing. It is assigning values with to the instance fields. This constructor is assigning values to the instance fields so that when we actually create an object, we can give these instance fields for that particular object values. Okay, and then we have these things called properties. Okay, we also covered accessors and mutator methods yesterday, but we said that that's kind of the little bit older school approach with Java that's more popular in Java. In C#, properties are way more commonly found, and so a property looks like this. We're going to got a public property, string name. It's going to have a get block and return the name, and a set block, name equals value. And so this is a property. Notice the convention. So our instance fields have this underscore notation. I think the notation for with the underscore, I think they call that snake. I think that's called snake notation. Anyways, whereas our properties start with a capital letter, just like the class, just like our methods. Okay, so if I make properties public string description, this is nice and easy because everything's strings. And capital year. Okay, I'm not using that arrow notation at all today. I'm just kind of doing some standard, right? Standard stuff. Okay, this is creating a class. A class is a blueprint for an object, right? Ultimately, the thing is a movie. The thing has data. The data are these instance fields. We are using the constructor to put data in, or we can use the properties to put data in. Because if you use the set block of the property, you can set the name, you can set the description, you can set the year. Okay, so we actually have a couple of different ways now to put data in using this class. Either the constructor or the properties. And we have really one way to get the data out, which is the get block. Okay, We learned another way of getting data out of the object yesterday, a method that I'm a fan of putting this method in your classes to not just return one piece of data, but to return multiple pieces of data. We learned a toString method, right? So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to put in a toString. And I think of a toString method as a getter for multiple pieces of data. Okay, so I'll say public override to string, public override string to string, and then you just put like a generic, what do you want when you call toString, what do you want to come back? Well, I'll say this movie's name. So I'm at, The Matrix was made in this year, _year, and has a description of _description. Okay, so you could see how this one method is going to return a string, a single string, with some data in it. And so now we have a class. There's multiple ways to set the data. There's multiple ways to get the data. Okay. So let's kind of go over here, and we're going to do some CRUD operations with our movie. Let's go ahead and let's just load up the form here. So I just viewed the code on my form. And the first thing I want to do is kind of see what's called seeding data. I want to seed my movie data. Okay, and what I mean by that is just what's my initial data when the form loads. I'm going to have a list of movies, called my movies equals a new list of movie. And yesterday we learned this syntax for giving your list some seed initial data. It's called like a list initializer, if you will. So normally your list, you could just kind of put a semicolon right here. And then to add a new movie to the list, you would call mymovies.add. We'll do that in a little bit if you want to add a new movie. But if you have some initial data, which I'm going to start off my list with like 3 movies or something, right? You can use an initializer in these curly braces and say new movie. And I'll call this constructor. And notice there's a movie name, a description, and a year. So IMDb, right? And just search The Matrix. Okay, Matrix 1999. So we'll say The Matrix, comma. The next thing comes the description, which is copy and paste. Copy and paste the description, and I'll put a comma. And the last thing is a year, which is 1999. Okay, so that's now my list of movies has one movie in it. Again, we no longer have parallel arrays. We can now store all of our data about one movie in one storage unit, right? In one movie object. So that's nice. You don't have to have different storage containers. It's now in one container. Yeah.
Does it matter the order you put in? Because in the other one, you put movie, year, and then the description.
It only matters because our constructor accepts it in the name first, then the description, then the year. So when you define the constructor, you code them in that order. So yes, you have to provide the values in that order.
So what about when you go down?
Right here? No, these don't matter. Like, in fact, I could take this property and I could put it down here.
Right there.
Right? I could put it down here. I could take that property and put it up here. But for like organizational, it's like, hey, I've got my fields, and I've got my constructors, 2 constructors, then I've got my properties, then I've got my methods.
Yeah, I was talking about the method.
Oh yeah, you can move this method anywhere. That's a good question. Could I put that method up here? Yeah, you could. That's a good question. Okay. Okay, so there's my first movie. Let's add another movie. New movie. And let's see what else Keanu has been in.
John Wick.
John Wick. Most known for Speed. Okay. And we'll say John Wick. So we'll do Speed. I'll tell you what. I saw this movie. This is an old movie. When was this made? 1994. I never knew what a bad acting was until I saw Keanu Reeves in this movie. Oh my goodness.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Did they do that for you? Well, that one was on purpose.
So let's go Speed. Right? And then I put quotes. Now, I want to show Nathan, because you asked, does the order matter? Notice as I'm typing in my constructor, notice right here. Do you see where my mouse is? It tells me what comes first, what comes second, and what comes third. You see that, Nathan? So yes, the answer is you have to. Now, can you change that? Actually, yeah. If I wanted to do year colon, remember this, year colon, and say 1994, I actually, and then description colon, you can actually change that order. So it's, I guess, flexible in that way. Okay, but there's no need to do that in this case, right? I'm just doing it because I'm just demonstrating that. And my new one will be John Wick, right? So if I go back to Keanu Reeves movies, what's the deal? He is definitely known for John Wick.
I think it's because IMDb chooses to do known for like classics.
Okay, here's John Wick.
There's 3 of them, though. I mean,
Yeah, we don't want to do the third one. We want to do the first one.
the first one.
John Wick 2.
The second one's probably the best one. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with
Really?
you. Yeah.
Okay.
It was in
What-
the Bad Batch?
We're going John Wick. John Wick.
Apparently.
Then we're going description of John Wick.
You're credited for the role of Dream.
And then we're doing the year 2014. Wasn't this like Don't Kill My Dog? Wasn't that movie?
Well,
Well, the dog was just like
the last.
The Catalyst or
It
something?
was the last thing
was
from
the
his
breaking
life.
point.
Yeah, it's a breaking point. The straw that broke the back. Okay, we have a list of movies. We have a list of movies. What you would call seed data. Okay? What are we going to do with this? We're doing CRUD operations. Okay, so we're going to add a new movie. We're going to allow the user to search for a movie. We're going to update a movie and delete a movie. Cool? So let's start with which one? Let's start with search. So what do we want to search by? We could search by title, we could search by description, we can search by year. You guys know how to search. We're just going to do searching with a list now. So this is going to be very similar to what you've already learned, just a little bit different. What do you want to search by? Title? Makes most sense. Just title? All right, cool, title. So I'm going to call this button search. And this is going to say search by title. Search by movie title. Or here, I'll just put this to say search. And then the label will say enter a movie title. Text property. I've been doing this my whole life. I can never find the text property.
Highlighted in purple.
Thank you. Search for a movie modify title. Okay, and then we'll put a little text box right here. So in the acronym CRUD, when you're searching, that's your read. You're reading data based on what the user wants to look at. So the name is text search. This is button search. And I'll have a label called label result. Name LBL result. And there's no text by default. Okay. Let's go ahead and string user search value equals text search.text. So we're reading out of the text box into a string. And let's do a bool found movie is false. Now, yeah, we could loop through a for each. For each movie in my movies, again, my movies is my list. So for each, we're just looping through all the movies. There's 3 movies, so we're gonna loop through. Now keep in mind, the way this for each works is that the first iteration of this for each loop, movie is the matrix, the first time through. The second time through the loop, movie is speed. The third time through the loop, movie is John Wick. Right? So it just goes over the movies. The movie object on line 26, the movie object changes each time through the loop. Okay? So again, it's going to loop 3 times because there's 3 movies. And if you add a 4th one, it'll automatically loop 4 times. Questions? Yeah.
So if we were to get a problem like this, would we explicitly need to do like a doc contains, or is that only if it asks to be able to run through partial search?
Partial searches are where you use contains.
Okay, so if it doesn't ask for that, we don't have to worry.
Yeah, if you want an exact match, then just use dot equals or the double equal sign.
Okay, but something like this probably would be best to use like a
Yeah, so the question is, do we want to do partial searches? In other words, if the user types matrix, do you want the matrix to be returned? And I would say probably. So we're going to do partial searches using dot contains, just like you've done before.
Will we also be using to lower?
And we can do to lower too, yeah. So let's say this. We'll say if okay, so keep in mind, movie the first time through is matrix. And then user search value is what they're searching for. So if I'll say movie dot contains, now this is wait a minute. Movie is an object. So you don't do the contains on the object. You use the property. If movie dot name, right? That movie's name is the matrix, right? The name is a string. So this name property returns a string. Now you can do dot contains. See that? If the movie's name contains what the user is searching for, found movie equals true, and what I'm going to do is label result dot text equals movie to string.
Why don't you use a break instead?
Yeah, I could go ahead and break. So the break is going to break you out of the loop, so it's not going to find, it's going to return true for the first instance that it finds. Like if I had matrix 1 and matrix 2 and matrix 3, it's just going to return matrix 1. So you can write search algorithms 100 different ways. This is just one way of writing a search algorithm. Okay. Okay. So now, so my label result's either going to have the movie information to a string, and then down here, and I'll say if found movie is still false, label result.text is movie not found. Okay, now this is not, I don't have two lower on this, so this is going to be case sensitive as of this point. But let's just fire this up and show kind of what's going on. So if I search for matrix, it does return matrix was made in 1999, has a description of blah. Okay, of course, our label, we could kind of go to the properties window, right click that, properties, auto sizing to false, and just kind of drag this, something like that. So we got matrix, we got wick, and speed. Okay, now it is case sensitive, so if I say, I don't know, well, let's just Hobbit, movie not found, if I go back to speed, okay. So this isn't so bad because we've done this before. Hopefully this makes sense how to apply it in the new, applying what we learned yesterday, which was, this whole kind of concept of classes and objects. So we got a list of objects, and we're looping through our list and checking to see if that object's name contains a search value. And if you wanted to do two lower on both sides, of course you can do two lower contains two lower, and now you're doing a case insensitive search because you're just making both insensitive to that. All right. So that is how to read from a list of objects. So that's the R on the CRUD. Let's go ahead and do the C, because what the heck, it's the first letter. Let's do create. Movies have three things that you got to get from the user. So text box, a name, copy paste a year, and a description. And I believe there's like a multi-line thing here. Yeah, there's multi-line is true, so this can kind of make it a text area for the description. And let's name these. Text movie name, text movie year, text movie description. And we'll add some labels. Movie name. Movie year. Movie description. Okay. And let's add a button to add a movie. We'll call this button add movie. This is actually not as bad as you might think. So let's do string movie name text movie name dot text string movie year text movie year dot text string movie description dot text. So let's read from the user. Let's create a movie object, movie new movie equal hold on, I'm gonna call this movie movie to add. We'll just call it movie to add is a new movie, and we're gonna pass in the movie name, the movie description that comes second in our constructor, and the movie year. So we make a movie object. So again, going back to what we learned or what we covered yesterday, line 48 creates a new variable. The data type is a reference type of type movie, which is just to say that its data type is an object. The identifier is movie to add. When you see the assignment operator, we're creating an instance of that class when you see the keyword new. So when you see the keyword new, that is creating an instance of the class. And then right here, what I'm highlighting, this is calling the constructor. And that basically gives that movie the data that comes from the form. So that sends the data to the constructor, ultimately setting those instance fields for that movie.
So it adds it to the list by doing this?
We haven't added it to the list quite yet. That's the next step. So let's put some comments. Read user data from the form. Instantiate a movie object. Now we're going to add the object to the list. So add the movie to the list. What's our list called? My movies. So I'm going to go down here, say my movies dot add, and then you just pass in the object, movie to add. That's it.
I have another question.
Yep.
And this might have been a question that we probably went over a while ago, but it's very early.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Let's say, going back to the form itself, let's say you wanted to keep the previous label result and just add a new line with the new label result each time you clicked the button for search. How would you do that without having to hard code label 0, label 1, label 2? I guess you wouldn't be doing subscript zeros and ones in a list.
I'm sorry. One more time. So you're back on the search, right? We're back on this. We're on the search.
And it gives you, let's say you look up the matrix.
Yep. One result at a time. Yep.
Yeah, one result.
Yep.
Let's say you wanted to keep that result there.
Yep.
But you want to search for a new movie, so it just adds the next result to it without getting rid of, for instance, whatever.
Well, this right here, label result.text equals, this overrides every time. So if you want to add to it, you might consider plus equals. That would just concatenate. So in other words, if I do this and I search for matrix and I click search and then I search for speed.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. I wanted to be sure.
Yep. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So all I want to do after adding a movie is I made another label. Label add result.text is movie added, right? Just to give the user some feedback that it worked. So I'm sure there's a Simpsons movie somewhere along the way. What year that might be, I have not a clue. So we'll say 95. A funny movie. Say add movie, and we got just a little bit of user feedback saying movie added. But if I search for Simpsons, we are now getting, it is able to search for our new movie because we've added it to the list. And when we search, we're searching through our list, right? So add is in fact working, and now we can also search for the movie that we've added. Now, our data doesn't persist, and so if I kind of relaunch it and I search for Simpsons, notice it goes back to movie not found. Our seed data starts all over every time you start this program. That's where a database really comes in useful. Like, you want to persist this data, you got to save this to a database. Otherwise, you add a new movie and then it goes away every time you restart the application, right? So that's not very real world. In the real world, we're going to be working with databases, right? But working with lists is kind of like a progression, and then we work with databases.
Being so used to working with databases, when I was coding mine, I kept thinking, why is my addition going away every time I close my screen?
It goes away every time you close it because it is not saved anywhere. It's just every time that form boots up, it resets your seed data. Okay, so we've got search, we've got add. Let's say we want to update. You might first search for a movie and then update it. Okay, so update will be kind of the trickiest because there's an additional step, which first is search for a movie. Then once you find a movie, then update the movie. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of refactor my search a little bit so that I can work with an update. Here's kind of all my my search controls. I'm gonna put update right beneath it, and if you've kind of played around with the toolbox, you might have seen there's a container and like a group box control. And you can kind of group controls together using this. So I'll call this group update. And the text says update movie. And I'm not going to make it visible by default. So I'm going to turn its visibility to false. So you kind of can't see it. So notice when I launch this, it's not visible. Although when I'm in design time, it is in fact visible. So let's kind of get this going how we want it. And let's provide some controls. Well, of course, there's 3 controls here. I'm just going to copy these text boxes. Let's see why. There we go. And I'm going to paste those in right there. But I'm going to give these appropriate names. This text box will be named update name. So txt update name. Txt update year. Txt update title.
Do you mean description?
I do mean description. And of course, a button that says update. Okay, so what I'm envisioning is that if a movie is found, this little update option becomes visible. And really nice would be to kind of pre-fill the description text box, the movie, and the name in these text boxes. So when the search is found, this becomes visible, and the data is already in the controls. So you literally just update the data. So again, I just want to run this and make sure that none of that's visible, which is currently the case. Now, if I double click this update, create an event handler for that button. And let's go back to my search algorithm. So what I want to do is, if the movie is found, before I break out, group update dot visible is true. So now just to say Matrix. Okay, so now Matrix is found and the update movie controls are visible. We need to know the index, right? Because we've got a list of movies and I just want to update a movie at a particular index. And so I need a variable to kind of int found index is -1. So -1 means movie not found. And because I'm using a for each loop, there's no index that I can get out of a for each loop. So let me refactor this for each and just do a traditional for loop so I can get the index out of it. So I'm going to refactor this to a for loop. Okay, so how does this look? So now we are looping through my movies dot, now there's count is the number of elements in the list, and there's capacity, which is we want to loop through the count.
If you wanted to, couldn't you declare a index variable and just add one every time the for loop?
Sure.
That way you can still use your for each.
You could still use a for each that way, yeah. So now we're just, instead of doing movie.name, we just do my movies sub I. My movies sub I. And this is my movies sub I2 string. So kind of refactor the for loop to use a for loop instead of a for each. Now we've got a position, and what we'll do is we'll set the found index equal to I. So it's 0, 1, or 2, or whatever position. Now we've got this found index variable set. And that gives us an index to update. So we have my movies. Now just to verify that, again, I kind of redid my loop. I just want to make sure I didn't break anything. So if I search for Matrix, it still works. Next step that I want to take is when you find Matrix, in the update controls, I want Matrix to show up right here. I want movie year to show up right here. I want the data to show up in these text boxes so that I just modify the data and click on the update button. And so text update description dot text equals my movies sub I dot description. I can read the individual description using the property. Text update name dot text. So I'm updating the text box equals to my movie sub I dot name, and the year text box equal to my movies sub I dot year. So this is a really good thing because we're getting single pieces of data out of that movie and storing that in the text box. And so now if I search for Matrix, click on search, now we kind of have some data preloaded in our controls. And when they click the update, obviously they're going to have made a change. We have an index that we need to update. So what we're going to do is say my movies sub index, which is, what do we call it? Found index. Dot year equals text update year dot text. So we're calling the year property. We're changing the year of that movie to be whatever the user typed. So we'll do the same thing here. My movies sub found index dot name text update name dot text. My movies sub found index dot so the data is already in there. We're just reassigning the year, the name, and the description to whatever the user typed in these text boxes. And let's give them a little label that says updated. So I'll put a little label right here. Label update result. And then I'll say label update result dot text is movie updated. Okay, let's see what breaks. If I search for Matrix, Matrix was in 99. Let's just say for whatever reason they found out it was updated to 98, movie updated. If I search for this again, notice the year's been updated to 1998. So then if I go and search for Speed, I go back and search for Matrix, it still says 1998. So we have create, Simpsons, 2000, a funny movie. Movie added. I can search for Simpsons. Simpsons is the year 2000. Let's say we changed our mind. It was made in 1998. It says movie updated. If I search for this again, 1998. I should be clearing out some labels and some things differently, right? But this is just flying through it. Last operation is delete. So of course we'll put delete in the lower left. And kind of the same thing. We'll search for it first, find the movie that we want to delete, and then delete it. So toolbox, group box, group delete, and I'm just going to give them a delete button. Button delete. And we'll give them a little label that says, are you sure you want to delete this movie? This is called label delete. It's empty by default. This will say delete movie. Visible is false. Our button is called button delete. It'll say delete. And
Does making the group itself false, like visibility false, should make everything that's in the group?
that is a correct statement. Notice it's everything in there, including the buttons and all the text boxes. None of it's visible just by making the group box invisible. Okay? And so when I search for matrix, I want the update movie to pop up, but I want the delete to pop up as well. And I want it to say, are you sure you want to delete the matrix? Is that even possible? I don't think you can't delete the matrix. Okay.
That was supposed to be the plot of.
That's the plot of the movie, right?
Just came out, like Matrix 4 or whatever.
So let's go back to our search. I'm going to set the group delete visible to true. So now, when I find a movie, now that's there. And I'm going to set the label delete dot text. Are you sure you want to delete my movies dot it's not title, it's name. My movies sub I dot name. Question mark, semicolon. Are you sure you want to delete the matrix? Okay, now it says, are you sure you want to delete the matrix? Of course, we need to code our handler for the delete. And we have an index at that point. So we'll say my movies sub found index dot. And when you have a list, to take something out of it, we are going to call. Oh, it's not on the found index. My movies dot remove. It says removes the first occurrence of the object. So notice this movie accepts an actual movie object. Let's see. There should be like a remove at. If I give them an index. Remove at. So here's remove at, and you pass in an index. So my movies dot remove at found index is correct. And providing a label, and we are done. Providing a label that will say movie deleted. Label delete result. Label delete label delete result dot text is movie deleted. So if I search for matrix, search, delete, movie deleted. If I search again, notice movie not found. And here, just to, if movie not found, then we also hide group update visible is false. Group delete visible is also false. So matrix, delete the matrix, search again, movie not found. The Simpsons 2000, add a movie. Simpsons 2002, movie updated 2002. Delete the Simpsons again. I need to clean that up a little bit, but now if I search for Simpsons, it says movie not found.
Why was the thing with the name thing visible? So I know to
It's a group box. It's a group box. So you just turn the visibility on and off to hide the controls. All right, I'm going to stop that recording there.